She had never imagined that a rainy day in a new city could change her life forever. The city was alive with people rushing to escape the sudden downpour, umbrellas popping open like colorful mushrooms all around. She pulled her coat tighter and walked briskly down the crowded street, her bag clutched close to her chest. It had been a long journey, moving from a small town where everyone knew each other to a city where she was just another face in the crowd. She felt both excitement and loneliness at the same time, carrying the hope that this new beginning would bring her the life she had always dreamed of. Her thoughts were interrupted when she accidentally bumped into someone. Books and papers scattered to the ground, and she immediately knelt down to help. He was quick to apologize, his voice calm but filled with urgency, as if he were always in a hurry. She noticed his dark coat soaked from the rain and the way he carefully gathered his papers, almost as if they were more important than himself. There was something about him, a quiet presence that made her heart skip a beat. I'm so sorry, she said, handing him the last of the papers. He smiled faintly, brushing wet strands of hair from his forehead, and nodded. It's okay, he replied. I should have been paying attention. No. His eyes lingered on hers for a moment longer than expected, and she felt an unusual warmth spread through her chest. They exchanged a few more words, mostly polite small talk, but each word seemed heavier. Dun 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 dun. Filled with a sense of unspoken curiosity. She didn't know why, but she felt as though she had known him for a long time. Days passed, and she kept seeing him in small, seemingly random places. A coffee shop near her apartment, a bookstore she often visited to escape the noise of the city, even in the park where she sometimes walked to think. At first, she tried to convince herself it was just coincidence that the city wasn't as big as it seemed. But with each passing day, the encounters grew longer, the conversations deeper. She learned that he was not just charming, but also kind in ways that weren't obvious at first glance. He helped a street musician pack up when it started raining, offered his seat to an elderly woman on the bus, and even returned a lost wallet he found on the sidewalk. She, too, began to open up, sharing fragments of her life. She told him about her decision to move to the city, her dreams of building a career, her fears of being lost in the vastness of this new place. He listened, really listened, without judgment, making her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. There was a quiet comfort in his presence, a sense that despite the chaos of the city, she could find peace when he was around. One evening, the rain returned, heavier than before. She found herself under the same awning where they had met weeks earlier. She didn't know why she had come here, perhaps drawn by memories she wasn't ready to face. He appeared shortly after, drenched but smiling, as if the rain didn't bother him at all. They laughed at the absurdity of it, sharing an umbrella that was barely big enough for one, let alone two. That small moment, simple as it was, carried a feeling of intimacy that neither could ignore. Their conversations became a ritual, part of their daily lives without even realizing it. They talked about their favorite books, movies, and childhood memories, laughing at each other's small quirks. He had a way of noticing things she didn't expect anyone to see. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her passions. She noticed how he often looked at her when she wasn't looking, a soft, lingering gaze that made her heart flutter. One day, as they walked through a quiet street lined with autumn leaves, he shared a story about his past. He spoke of a time when he had felt completely alone, when life seemed unfair. And yet he had found small moments of beauty that kept him going. She listened intently, feeling a connection she couldn't quite explain. It wasn't just his words, but the way he spoke them, with honesty and vulnerability that touched her deeply. She realized she was falling for him, slowly and painfully, without any grand gestures or declarations. It was in the small things, the way he remembered her favorite coffee order, the way he sent a message just to say he hoped she was having a good day, the way he offered a hand when she stumbled on the pavement. Love, she understood now, didn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it crept in quietly, unannounced, and took root in the heart before you even realized it. For him, it was the same. He had met many people in his life, but she was different. She was not just someone to pass the time with. She was someone whose presence made the world feel lighter, whose laughter made even the dullest days brighter. He found himself looking forward to their encounters, replaying their conversations in his mind, and imagining a future where she was always around. One evening, as the city lights reflected off the wet streets, they found themselves sitting on a bench in a quiet park. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a cool, refreshing air. They talked about their hopes and fears, about the unpredictability of life, and the small joys that made it worthwhile. He reached out, gently brushing her hand, and she didn't pull away. It was a subtle touch, yet it carried 1,000 unspoken words. In that moment, they both felt it, the undeniable connection that neither could ignore. There was no rush, no pressure, just a quiet understanding that their lives had intertwined for a reason. They didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, both felt a sense of hope. The city, once intimidating and cold, now felt like a place where love could grow, where hearts could find each other despite the chaos around them. As the night settled and the streets emptied, they parted ways, each walking home with a smile that lingered long after they were alone. She replayed every moment of the day in her mind, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in years. He did the same, a quiet joy filling the spaces that had once been lonely and empty. They didn't need words to define what was happening between them. The small glances, the gentle touches, and the shared laughter said everything. Days turned into weeks, and their encounters became more intentional. They would meet for coffee, walk through the city streets, and spend hours talking as if time itself had slowed down for them. Each meeting deepened their bond, each conversation revealing more about the person they were becoming together. They were not perfect. They were perfect for each other in ways neither could have anticipated. And so, in the midst of a city that never slept, two hearts quietly found each other. It was the beginning of something beautiful, something tender and real. A love that didn't need grand declarations or dramatic moments to prove itself. It was a love that grew in the everyday, in the simple acts of kindness, in the shared silences, and in the understanding that sometimes the most meaningful connections happen when you least expect them. The rainy days, the crowded streets, and the quiet park benches were all witnesses to a love story that was just beginning. A story that would face challenges, heartache, and distance, but in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was the spark, the connection, and the undeniable feeling that their lives had changed forever. And in that change, both found a hope that maybe, just maybe, love was not as impossible as it had once seemed. Days turned into weeks, and the connection between them grew in ways neither could have expected. What had started as chance meetings now became moments they both quietly anticipated. Every coffee shop visit, every walk through the streets of the city, and every conversation carried a feeling of familiarity and comfort. It was as if the universe had conspired to make them cross paths. Both of them could feel it deep within their hearts. She had started to notice the little things about him that made him unique. The way he would pause mid-sentence to make sure she understood his story, the gentle humor that slipped into even his most serious moments, and the patience he showed when dealing with the simplest of things. She found herself wanting to be near him, to hear his thoughts and share her own. There was a sense of peace she had never felt before, a feeling that being around him was like finally finding a place where she belonged. For him it was the same. He admired her kindness, the way she treated everyone around her with respect and warmth, and the quiet determination in her eyes that told him she would overcome anything life threw at her. He noticed how she laughed at things that others might not, how she cared for the small details, and how her presence made even ordinary days feel brighter. Slowly he realized that he was no longer just enjoying her company. He was beginning to depend on it. They spent long afternoons together, sometimes wandering aimlessly through the city, other times sitting in quiet corners of a cafe, talking about their dreams, fears, and everything in between. They shared memories from their childhoods, stories of past friendships, and the moments that had shaped who they were. It was during these conversations that they discovered how much they had in common, yet how beautifully different they were. Each difference became a point of fascination rather than conflict. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of pink and orange. They found themselves on a bridge overlooking the river. The water shimmered with the reflection of city lights, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of the evening rain. They walked in silence for a while, just enjoying each other's presence. There was no need for words. The quiet was comforting. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and thoughtful. "I feel like I've known you for a long time," he said, glancing at her out of the corner of his eye. "Even though we just met, it feels different. Important." She smiled softly, her heart fluttering. "I feel the same way. It's strange, but I can't ignore it." From that moment on, they started to acknowledge the feelings that had been quietly growing between them. They would sit closer on the bench in the park, linger longer at the coffee shop, and find excuses to text each other throughout the day. Every shared smile, every touch of the hand, and every whispered word became a thread that wove their lives together. Despite the growing closeness, both of them were careful not to rush anything. They had both been hurt before, and the fear of losing what they had prevented them from fully expressing their feelings. Instead, they let their actions speak for them. He would remember her favorite pastry at the bakery and bring it without being asked. She would leave a note on his desk, a small gesture of encouragement during a busy day. These tiny acts of love became the foundation of something much deeper. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves sharing an umbrella, much like the first time they had met. But this time, there was no awkwardness, only a quiet understanding. They walked side by side, occasionally brushing shoulders, each contact sending a warm spark through them. The rain, once a backdrop for their first meeting, now seemed like a gentle witness to the bond that was growing between them. They also began to support each other in more meaningful ways. She encouraged him to pursue a personal project he had been hesitant about, offering her perspective and insight. He, in turn, helped her navigate challenges at work, offering advice without being overbearing. They became each other's confidants, trusted friends, and silent supporters. Every small victory and setback was shared, and in those moments, they realized how much they had come to rely on one another. The city, which had once felt overwhelming and impersonal, now seemed to embrace them. They found hidden corners, quiet cafes, and peaceful parks where they could escape from the noise and just be together. Each shared experience, no matter how small, felt significant. They laughed at the simplest jokes, comforted each other during difficult times, and celebrated the smallest accomplishments. Their bond was growing stronger with every passing day. One evening, as they sat on a rooftop overlooking the city skyline, he turned to her with a gentle smile. "I never expected to find someone like you here," he said, his eyes reflecting the fading light. "You make everything feel lighter, like I can face anything." Her heart swelled with emotion. "I feel the same way. I didn't think I could ever feel this connected to someone so quickly. But with you, it feels natural, like it's supposed to be this way." They sat in silence for a while, watching the city come alive with lights and movement. It was a quiet, tender moment, filled with unspoken emotions that both were hesitant to voice. They didn't need to say anything. The understanding was mutual. In that silence, their hearts spoke volumes. As the weeks continued, their connection deepened even further. They began to notice patterns in each other's lives, the way she always made a small cup of tea before starting her day, the way he liked to read at the same spot in the park every evening. They found comfort in these routines, knowing that they were part of each other's worlds. Every gesture, no matter how ordinary, became a reminder of the bond they shared. One afternoon, he decided to take a trip to a nearby countryside town. It was a spontaneous decision made on a whim, but it turned out to be one of the most memorable experiences of their growing relationship. They walked through fields, shared stories by the river, and laughed as they tried to navigate the narrow streets of the town. It was during this trip that they realized just how much they meant to each other. The joy, the laughter, the shared moments of quiet reflection made them understand that their connection was not fleeting. It was something rare and precious. In the evenings, as they sat by the riverbank, watching the sunset, he would hold her hand, and she would rest her head on his shoulder. There was no need for grand declarations of love. The small gestures were enough to convey the depth of their feelings. Each touch, each glance, and each shared smile spoke louder than words ever could. But even as their bond grew stronger, there were moments of doubt. Both had passed wounds that made them cautious, moments when fear of losing the other held them back from fully opening their hearts. Yet every time they hesitated, they found a way back to each other. A reassuring smile, a gentle word, or a simple act of kindness reminded them why they were drawn together in the first place. As autumn turned to winter, their relationship settled into a comforting rhythm. They continued to explore the city together, sharing experiences that deepened their understanding of each other. They celebrated small victories, comforted each other during setbacks, and slowly began to imagine a future that included both of them. Their love was growing steadily, quietly, and beautifully, like a flame that refused to be extinguished one snowy evening. As they walked through the park, the first snowflakes falling gently around them, he stopped and looked at her with a tender expression. "I can't imagine my life without you now," he said softly. "You've become such an important part of who I am." Tears welled up in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming warmth of his words. "I feel the same way. You've changed my world in ways I never thought possible." They stood there, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the snow, holding each other close. In that moment, they both understood that what they had was rare and precious. Their friendship had blossomed into love, slowly and naturally. And they knew that they were willing to face whatever challenges life might bring, as long as they faced them together. And so, their story continued, filled with laughter, shared dreams, and a deep, unspoken understanding. They had grown closer in ways neither could have anticipated, finding in each other a partner, a confidant, and a source of endless joy. The connection they had formed in those early days had only grown stronger, proving that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin quietly, in the simplest moments, and unfold gradually, touching hearts in ways that last a lifetime. The months that followed were filled with warmth and joy. But life, as it often does, introduced complications that neither of them had expected. Their love, growing steadily through small gestures and quiet moments, faced the first real test. She received an unexpected offer to work abroad, an opportunity that promised to advance her career and fulfill a dream she had long held. The excitement of the opportunity was tinged with hesitation, for it meant leaving the city she had grown to love and, more importantly, leaving him. The news brought a mixture of emotions. She felt a surge of excitement for what lay ahead, but also a deep, gnawing fear of leaving someone who had become so central to her life. She struggled with the thought of telling him, unsure how he would react. Would he understand her ambition, or would he feel abandoned? The thought of his disappointment made her heart ache. He noticed that she had become quieter, more introspective. The lively spark in her eyes seemed dimmed at times, replaced by worry and contemplation. One evening, as they sat in their favorite cafe, he gently asked her what was wrong. She hesitated, biting her lip, before finally sharing the news. His initial reaction was composed, but she could see the conflict in his eyes. There was pride for her achievements, but also a fear of losing her. They talked for hours, weighing the options, discussing the possible outcomes, and trying to find a solution that would allow them to be together. But deep down, both knew that this was a crossroads. She had a dream that she could not ignore, and he had responsibilities that tied him to the city. The thought of separation was heavy, pressing down on both of them like an invisible weight in the days that followed. They tried to make the most of their remaining time together. They revisited the streets, parks, and cafes that had become their shared world. Every moment was filled with laughter, gentle teasing, and quiet conversations that carried a bittersweet undertone. The air between them was thick with unspoken words, emotions that neither dared to fully express. Fearing the impending goodbye, their connection, though strained by the thought of distance, also revealed its strength. They found comfort in small rituals, morning messages, shared meals, and late-night calls that lasted until one of them fell asleep. These moments were a reminder that their love, though challenged by circumstance, had a resilience that neither could deny. Yet, there was also a growing awareness that these moments were fleeting. That time was slipping through their fingers. He tried to prepare himself for the inevitable. focusing on his work and the responsibilities that bound him to the city. Yet every quiet moment reminded him of her absence. He found himself replaying memories in his mind, the sound of her laughter, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, and the way her eyes lit up when she spoke passionately about her dreams. The thought of losing these small joys made his chest tighten. She, too, wrestled with her feelings. She was determined to seize the opportunity before her, yet the thought of leaving him behind brought tears to her eyes. She realized that love was not just about being together. It was also about supporting each other's dreams, even when it meant enduring pain and distance. Her heart ached at the thought of leaving. Yet she knew she had to take this step for herself and for her future. As the day of her departure approached, tension grew between them, not from conflict, but from the silent fear of change. They found themselves arguing over small things, moments of frustration fueled by the anxiety of the impending separation. Both were careful not to let the arguments escalate, but the strain was palpable. Friends who noticed them began to offer advice, gentle reminders that love often faced challenges and that the heart had to be strong to endure them. On the eve of her departure, they met at the park, the place where so many of their shared memories had been made. The air was crisp, and the city lights reflected off the wet pavement, creating a scene that was both beautiful and melancholic. They sat on the bench, holding hands, each reluctant to break the fragile connection that tethered them together. "I don't want to leave you," she whispered, her voice trembling. He shook his head, his eyes filled with emotion. "I don't want you to go, but I can't stop you from chasing your dreams. I just want you to be happy." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his embrace. They stayed like that for a long time, neither speaking, both silently acknowledging the reality of the situation. It was a moment of profound sadness, yet also of love. Love that refused to falter despite the looming distance. The next morning, they parted at the airport, the goodbye filled with quiet tears and whispered promises. She boarded the plane with a heavy heart, looking back one last time to see him standing there, watching her leave. He waved, but the sadness in his eyes mirrored the pain in her own heart. The city that had witnessed their love now seemed empty and distant, a reminder of what they were temporarily leaving behind. Life went on, but the absence was keenly felt. She adjusted to her new environment, navigating the challenges of a foreign city, learning new skills, and immersing herself in her work. Yet, amidst the excitement and new experiences, her mind often wandered back to him. She missed his presence, his laughter, and the simple comfort of sharing her days with someone who truly understood her. He, too, felt the void. The routines that had once been filled with shared moments now felt hollow. He found solace in work and the company of friends, yet every quiet evening reminded him of her absence. Letters and messages became their lifeline, small threads that kept them connected despite the physical distance. They shared their experiences, their frustrations, and their small victories. Each message, a reminder that their love remained alive. Yet, even with communication, the distance was challenging. Time zones, busy schedules, and moments of exhaustion made it difficult to stay as close as they had been. Misunderstandings arose, small conflicts, fueled by lack of clarity or delayed responses. Both felt the strain, realizing that love, though strong, required effort and patience to survive distance. The emotional weight of missing each other became a test of their resilience. There were nights when she would stare out of her apartment window, imagining him walking through the streets of their city, wondering what he was doing and if he missed her as much as she missed him. Similarly, he would walk through familiar paths, recalling their shared moments, the sound of her voice echoing in his mind. The ache of separation was a constant presence, a reminder that love, while beautiful, could also be deeply painful. Despite the challenges, they refused to give up. They made plans for visits, counting down the days until they could be together again. Each reunion was filled with intense emotion, laughter, and tears, a reaffirmation of their bond. These moments reminded them that their love was worth enduring the hardships. That distance could not diminish what they felt for each other. Through the separation, they learned valuable lessons about trust, patience, and the depth of their feelings. They discovered that love was not just about physical presence, but about emotional connection, understanding, and unwavering support. The challenges they faced strengthened their bond, proving that even when life created obstacles, their hearts remained aligned. The first challenge in their relationship, the separation, became a defining moment. It tested their commitment, their understanding, and their resilience. Yet, through the pain and uncertainty, they emerged stronger, more aware of the significance of their connection. They realized that love, when nurtured with care and sincerity, could withstand even the harshest trials. And so, as the days turned into months, they continued to navigate the complexities of life, holding on to the hope that their paths would converge once again. The love that had begun in chance encounters and quiet moments had matured into a profound bond, capable of enduring distance, misunderstandings, and the uncertainties of the future. Their hearts remained steadfast, a testament to the power of true love and the belief that some connections are meant to last, no matter the obstacles. The distance that had once seemed like a temporary challenge slowly grew heavier, pressing down on both of them in ways they hadn't anticipated. She was busy with her new life abroad, her days filled with work, new experiences, and the excitement of independence, but there was always an emptiness she could not shake. He was back in their city, surrounded by familiar streets and routines, yet every familiar corner reminded him of her absence. The void left by her absence was constant, a shadow that lingered even in moments of joy. They tried to stay connected, messaging, calling, and video chatting whenever possible. At first, these moments were filled with warmth and excitement, a digital bridge that kept their hearts close despite miles of distance. They shared every detail of their days, the successes and struggles, the little discoveries and the mundane routines. But over time, the frequency of messages declined. The conversations became shorter and misunderstandings began to creep in. Simple delays in response or missed calls were magnified by insecurity and longing, creating a subtle tension neither wanted to face. She noticed how he seemed distracted at times, how his messages, though polite and affectionate, sometimes lacked the warmth they had once held. She wondered if he was growing distant, if the life he had back home was taking him further away from her. Doubt and fear began to gnaw at her, and she found herself reading too much into small actions. The love that had once felt so steady now seemed fragile, vulnerable to the pressures of distance and circumstance. He, too, felt the strain. He missed the laughter they shared, the simple joy of walking together, and the comfort of having her near. Every day that passed without her felt like a reminder of what he could not touch, a pain that was difficult to articulate. He tried to stay strong, burying himself in work and responsibilities, but the quiet moments alone were filled with longing. He worried that she might be happier without him, that the distance was slowly changing her feelings. The first real argument came unexpectedly. A misunderstanding over a missed video call escalated into words that neither of them truly meant. She accused him of being distant, of not caring enough. While he struggled to express how much he was trying to cope with the separation, harsh words were said in frustration and exhaustion. And when the call ended, both were left with a heavy silence, the kind that weighed down the heart and made every other thought feel hollow. Days passed before they reached out to each other again. When they did, the conversation was tentative, filled with apologies and explanations. They both realized how much the distance had affected their communication, how easy it was for doubt and fear to take hold when the heart was far from the other. Despite the reconciliation, a lingering sadness remained, a reminder that love, though powerful, was not immune to the difficulties of life. She threw herself into her work, trying to fill the emptiness with productivity and purpose. Yet every small success felt incomplete without him to share it with. She would find herself pausing in the middle of a busy day, imagining him walking through the streets of their city, wondering if he was thinking of her as she thought of him. The ache of separation was constant, a quiet companion that made even ordinary moments bittersweet. He, too, struggled. He tried to focus on the tasks at hand, on helping friends and attending to his responsibilities. But his thoughts always drifted back to her. He remembered their walks through the park, the laughter they shared over coffee, and the quiet moments where words were unnecessary. The city, once familiar and comforting, now felt like a reminder of what he had lost. And every corner seemed to echo with memories of her presence. Months passed, and though they spoke less frequently, the emotional bond remained strong. Both realized that love was not just about presence, but about holding on through trials, about believing in the connection even when circumstances were difficult. Yet, the strain of distance was undeniable, and the longing for each other became almost unbearable. The heartache was a constant reminder of the depth of their feelings. A testament to how much they meant to one another, she began to question herself, wondering if pursuing her dream was worth the pain of separation. She loved him deeply, but the opportunity before her was once in a lifetime, something she had worked for years to achieve. The conflict between ambition and love was agonizing, leaving her restless and uncertain. Late at night, she would lie awake, imagining the life she could have with him versus the life she was creating alone. Every choice felt like a compromise, and every compromise carried its own sorrow. He faced a similar inner struggle. He wanted her to be happy, to succeed, and to reach her potential, yet the thought of life without her nearby was unbearable. He found himself questioning whether love was enough when life pulled them in different directions. The memories of their shared moments were both a comfort and a torment, reminders of what he longed for and could not fully grasp. Every day apart was a silent test of his patience and strength. Despite the distance, both tried to maintain hope. They made plans for future visits, imagining the joy of being reunited and counting down the days until they could hold each other again. But life, unpredictable as ever, threw obstacles in their way. Flights were delayed, work commitments interfered, and opportunities for connection became more limited. The frustration of circumstance added to the emotional strain, and the heartache deepened. During this period, small misunderstandings had a way of turning into significant emotional hurdles. Words left unsaid became weighty, intentions misinterpreted, and every lapse in communication seemed amplified. They both realized that love required more than feelings. It required patience, understanding, and a willingness to forgive and trust despite the challenges. Yet even with this understanding, the separation continued to test their bond. There were moments when she questioned whether the love they shared could survive such distance. Could their hearts remain aligned when the miles stretched between them, when the physical presence that once grounded their emotions was gone? She feared that the connection, once so strong and certain, might fade under the weight of separation. The thought was unbearable, yet the reality of her choices made it impossible to ignore. He, too, felt the fear. He worried that absence might weaken their connection, that time apart would allow doubt to creep in. He wondered if she might find someone else, if her feelings could shift when he was not there to reassure her. The fear of losing her, of watching their love diminish without being able to intervene, created a quiet tension that neither could escape. Yet, despite the pain, he could not bring himself to let go. The longing became a part of their lives, a constant presence that colored every decision and every thought. They learned to navigate the ache, to find moments of joy and connection despite the separation. They celebrated small victories, shared photos, and exchanged letters filled with emotion. Each attempt to bridge the distance a testament to their commitment. Yet the reality of separation was unrelenting. They missed birthdays, anniversaries, and simple everyday moments. The inability to share life physically, to experience together the small joys and challenges, created a tension that words could not fully resolve. Each reunion, though cherished, was fleeting. The departures that followed were filled with renewed heartache in quiet moments. They would reflect on the love they shared, the depth of their connection, and the resilience of their hearts. They realized that love was not only about being together, but also about holding on to hope, trusting each other, and enduring pain with the belief that the bond they shared was worth every struggle. The heartache became a teacher, showing them the strength of their emotions and the commitment required to maintain a love that transcends distance. As the months stretched on, they continued to navigate the complexities of life, each day a mix of longing, hope, and emotional growth. The distance had tested their patience, their trust, and their resilience. But it had also strengthened their bond in ways they could not have anticipated. They had learned that love was not always easy, but when true, it could survive even the harshest trials. The heartache, though painful, became a symbol of their dedication. It was a reminder that love required sacrifice, understanding, and unwavering belief in each other. Though they were apart, the connection they had built remained strong, a silent promise that no matter the distance or challenges, their hearts were intertwined, and so, even in the face of separation and longing, they held on to each other. Their love, though tested and strained, endured, proving that true connection cannot be broken by distance alone. It was a love that had grown through shared moments, strengthened through trials, and deepened through the quiet understanding that sometimes enduring the pain of separation is what makes love truly unbreakable. Months had passed since their last time together, and the ache of separation had worn heavily on both of them. Yet, through messages, calls, and letters, their connection had remained alive, a fragile yet unbroken thread that tied their hearts together. They had both grown, individually and emotionally, learning lessons in patience, trust, and resilience. Still, the longing to see each other in person again was overwhelming, silent yearning that neither could ignore. A mutual friend noticing the toll the distance had taken on both of them suggested a meeting, unaware of the emotional weight it carried. They hesitated at first, cautious of the vulnerability that a reunion might bring. The thought of facing months of heartache in one moment was daunting. Yet the possibility of reconnecting drew them in, an irresistible pull neither could resist. The day arrived, crisp and clear, with the city bathed in soft sunlight. She stood at the designated meeting spot, her heart racing, unsure of what emotions would flood her when she finally saw him. Every passing moment heightened her anticipation and nervousness. When he arrived, the world seemed to stop. Time slowed as their eyes met across the bustling street, and in that instant, all the months of distance, heartache, and longing converged into one overwhelming feeling of relief and joy. They ran to each other, the hesitation gone, replaced by the raw emotion that had been building for so long. In his arms, she felt a warmth she had longed for, a comfort that reassured her that despite the separation, their love had endured. He held her tightly, not wanting to let go, feeling the same sense of relief and happiness. Words were unnecessary. At first, the embrace said everything that needed to be expressed. They walked together through the city streets, hand in hand, savoring the small moments that had been missing for so long. Every laugh, every smile, every shared glance felt intensified by the months of longing. They returned to their favorite, parked the place where so many memories had been made, and sat on the familiar bench, taking in the scenery with a quiet sense of gratitude. The river shimmered under the sunlight, reflecting not just the city, but the emotions that had grown between them. As they talked, they shared stories of the months apart, the successes, struggles, the moments of doubt, and the small joys that had sustained them. Each revelation brought them closer, filling in the gaps that distance had created. They realized how much they had learned about themselves and each other, how much stronger and more resilient their love had become. The separation, though painful, had deepened their connection, proving that true love could withstand trials and hardships. They revisited the streets they had once wandered together, laughing at old jokes and recalling the moments that had first brought them together. Each shared memory, each familiar corner, was a reminder of the journey they had traveled and the challenges they had overcome. They felt a renewed sense of appreciation for the love they shared, understanding that the months of heartache had only made their reunion more meaningful. Over dinner at a quiet restaurant, they reflected on the struggles they had endured, the emotional distance that had tested their bond, and the growth they had achieved individually. They spoke openly about their fears, the moments when they had questioned their love, and the lessons they had learned about patience, understanding, and the power of unwavering commitment. It was a conversation filled with honesty, vulnerability, and a deep sense of mutual respect. As the evening progressed, they found themselves walking through a quiet street, the city lights casting a soft glow on the pavement. He stopped and turned to her, his eyes filled with emotion. "I don't want to imagine my life without you ever again," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "I've realized that no matter what challenges we face, we belong together." Tears welled in her eyes, and she smiled, feeling a mixture of relief, joy, and overwhelming love. "I feel the same way. These months apart have shown me how much you mean to me, and I don't want to let anything keep us apart again." They embraced again, the world around them fading as they held each other close. It was a moment of profound connection, a culmination of months of longing, heartache, and unwavering love. In that embrace, they felt the strength of their bond, a promise that they would face life's challenges together, supporting each other through every trial and triumph. In the days that followed, they spent every possible moment together, savoring the joy of reunion and the simple pleasure of being near each other. They explored the city, revisited familiar places, and created new memories that would become the foundation of the next chapter of their love story. Every touch, every smile, and every shared experience was a reminder of the resilience of their hearts and the depth of their connection. They also spoke about the future, making plans that included both their dreams and their love. They understood that life would continue to present challenges, but they were committed to facing them together, knowing that their bond was strong enough to endure whatever came their way. The months of separation had strengthened their resolve, proving that love required effort, patience, and unwavering dedication. In quiet moments, they would sit together, reflecting on the journey they had taken. They marveled at how far they had come, from the chance meeting in the rain to the deep, enduring love that now defined their relationship. The tears of heartache had given way to tears of joy. The pain of separation had given way to the warmth of reunion, and the uncertainty of the future was met with a shared confidence in their commitment to each other. They realized that love was not always about grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes it was about enduring the small, quiet challenges, supporting each other through distance and hardship, and holding on with unwavering faith. Their story had become a testament to the power of love, the strength of the human heart, and the beauty of connection that transcends time and space. As the sun set over the city, casting a golden glow over the streets and buildings, they walked hand in hand, their hearts full of hope and gratitude. They had faced challenges, endured heartache, and navigated the complexities of life. Yet their love had emerged stronger, deeper, and more beautiful than ever. They knew that the journey ahead would not always be easy, but they were ready to face it together, knowing that their hearts had found their home in each other. And so, the story that had begun with a chance encounter in the rain reached a new chapter, filled with joy, understanding, and a love that had been tested and proven true. They had learned that distance could not diminish the bond between hearts that were meant to be together, that challenges could be overcome with patience and trust, and that the most beautiful love stories were those that endured, even in the face of adversity, in the quiet moments. When they simply held each other and listened to the rhythm of their hearts, they knew that they had found something rare and precious, a love that was not fleeting, not fragile, but enduring, a love that would continue to grow, deepen, and inspire, no matter what life might bring. Their journey had been filled with tears, heartache, and longing, but it had also been filled with resilience, hope, and an unbreakable connection that would last a lifetime. The months of separation had taught them the value of presence, the importance of communication, and the strength that comes from unwavering commitment. And now, reunited, they could finally embrace the fullness of their love, knowing that they had weathered the storms together and emerged stronger, ready to face the future hand in hand. After their reunion, life slowly settled into a comforting rhythm. But they both understood that love was not just about fleeting moments of happiness. It was about facing challenges together, nurturing the bond they had, and building a future that would honor the struggles they had endured. Each day became a small adventure, filled with the simple joys of being together and the quiet understanding that they were no longer alone. They woke up early on weekends to explore the city, discovering hidden streets, small cafes, and quiet corners that neither had noticed before. These outings were more than just leisure. They were ways to create shared memories, little treasures that would strengthen their connection. She loved watching him interact with the world around him, the way he noticed details others missed, and the way his laughter could light up even the dullest moments. He, in turn, admired her curiosity and energy, the way she approached life with both caution and courage. Work continued to play a role in both their lives, but now it no longer felt like a barrier between them. They supported each other's ambitions, celebrating accomplishments and offering comfort during setbacks. When she faced challenges at her job, he encouraged her, reminding her of her strengths and abilities. When he struggled with responsibilities that felt overwhelming, she provided perspective and reassurance. Their love had grown into a partnership built on respect, trust, and mutual support, making the bond between them even stronger. Evenings were often spent in quiet togetherness, sharing meals, reading side by side, or simply talking about their day. These moments, though ordinary on the surface, carried a profound depth. They learned to appreciate the beauty in small gestures, a hand held during a difficult moment, a smile exchanged over a shared joke, or the comfort of simply being near each other. The simplicity of these moments highlighted the richness of their connection, reminding them that love did not need grand gestures to be meaningful. One evening, as they walked along the riverbank, the water reflecting the soft glow of streetlights, he paused and looked at her. "I've been thinking," he said gently, "about how far we've come and how much I want to make sure we never take this for granted." She smiled, understanding the weight of his words. "I feel the same. We've been through so much, and I want to make sure we continue to grow together, no matter what comes next." They spoke at length about their dreams for the future, traveling together, building a home, and supporting each other's goals. The conversation was not just about plans, but about creating a shared vision for their life. They realized that love was not a static feeling, but a dynamic force that required nurturing, effort, and intentionality. The challenges they had faced had taught them this. They were determined to honor it moving forward. As winter gave way to spring, they experienced the city in a new light. Blossoms appeared on trees, parks were filled with color, and the air was filled with the scent of renewal. They spent days walking through gardens, enjoying picnics, and marveling at the simple beauty of life. These moments of joy reminded them that love was about presence, about noticing the small wonders of the world together and finding happiness in each other's company. They also began to think more deeply about commitment. The idea of long-term partnership became more tangible, not just as a romantic notion, but as a practical reality they were ready to embrace. They discussed what it meant to support each other through challenges, to prioritize each other's needs, and to continue growing as individuals while remaining a united pair. These conversations, though sometimes difficult, strengthened their trust and deepened their emotional connection in the midst of their daily lives. They also faced unexpected challenges, family issues, work stress, and unforeseen events that tested their patience and resilience. Yet, each challenge became an opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to one another. They learned to communicate openly, to offer reassurance, and to navigate conflict with empathy. The trials, rather than weakening their bond, reinforced their understanding of what it meant to truly love and be loved. They found joy in celebrating small milestones, from professional achievements to personal victories. Knowing that shared happiness was a crucial part of sustaining love, each celebration, no matter how modest, became a symbol of their partnership, reminder that life was best experienced together. Even mundane tasks, like grocery shopping or cooking dinner, became moments of connection, filled with laughter, conversation, and companionship. One afternoon, they visited a small, quiet cafe that neither had noticed before. They sat by the window, watching the world go by, and spoke about the future. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his, and said, "I want to keep building this life with you every day in every small way. I don't just want to be with you, I want to grow with you." Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness but from the overwhelming depth of his words. "I feel the same. I want us to face everything together, to celebrate, to struggle, to grow, and to love in a way that lasts forever." The city around them seemed to fade. leaving only the two of them in the unspoken promise that their love was enduring. They had learned that love was not just about grand moments or dramatic gestures, but about the accumulation of small, meaningful experiences, each one reinforcing the connection they shared, as spring turned to summer. They took a trip together to the countryside, leaving behind the bustling city for quiet fields, rivers, and forests. They walked hand in hand along trails, shared meals under the open sky, and spent nights lying on blankets, watching the stars. The simplicity of the experience, combined with the intensity of their connection, created memories that would last a lifetime. They discovered new layers of each other. From the way he marveled at the night sky, to the gentle patience she showed when navigating unfamiliar paths. During the trip, they had long conversations about what they wanted in life, both individually and as a couple. They discussed dreams that had seemed distant, fears that had lingered, and the shared hope of creating a life filled with love, trust, and adventure. Each conversation brought them closer, deepening the understanding that they were not just in love, but also deeply committed to building a shared future. Even in moments of silence, their connection was palpable. Sitting together by the river, listening to the gentle flow of water, they found peace in each other's presence. Words were not always necessary. The quiet understanding, the comfort of proximity, and the warmth of a shared glance were enough to communicate the depth of their feelings. Returning to the city, they carried with them the lessons of the trip, the importance of patience, the beauty of shared experiences, and the strength that comes from facing life together. They approached daily life with renewed energy, appreciating the small joys, the quiet moments, and the profound connection that had brought them through challenges before. Over time, they also became sources of support for friends and family, offering advice, encouragement, and a model of what enduring love could look like. Their relationship, built on mutual respect and understanding, inspired those around them, demonstrating that love required effort, communication, and unwavering commitment. Even ordinary days were now filled with significance. Morning coffee shared on the balcony, walks through familiar streets, and casual conversations about dreams and plans became anchors for their relationship. They had learned to value these simple moments, understanding that they were the foundation upon which a strong, lasting love was built. As they approached milestones in their relationship, they reflected on the journey that had brought them together, the chance encounter in the rain, the growing connection, the trials of distance, and the eventual reunion. Each phase of their story had shaped them, deepened their love, and strengthened their bond. They realized that the most meaningful relationships are those that endure challenges, grow through shared experiences, and flourish through mutual care and understanding. Their love had matured into something profound, a partnership rooted in empathy, trust, and the joy of shared life. They understood that the journey ahead would not always be easy, but they were ready to face it together, confident in the strength of their connection and the depth of their commitment, even in quiet moments. As they held hands and shared simple touches, they felt the enduring presence of love. They knew that true connection was not about perfection, but about the willingness to navigate life's ups and downs together, to celebrate victories, support each other through struggles, and continuously nurture the bond they had built. Their hearts had grown resilient, their trust unwavering, and their love deeper than they had ever imagined. And so, life continued, filled with the small, beautiful moments that defined their relationship. They cherished each day, understanding that love was a living, evolving force, strengthened by care, patience, and shared experiences. The story that had begun with a chance meeting in the rain had transformed into a profound, enduring love, capable of facing any challenge, enduring any hardship, and continuing to grow, day by day, moment by moment,